Lexington hosting West Holmes on homecoming night. Minutemen fresh off an upset beatdown of Mansfield Senior, looking to stay in the OCC title hunt. And though they had a lot of momentum coming into the game, things did not start well for the purple and gold. We began here with Bridger Klein, a 79-yard connection to Grady Hay. He had 178 receiving yards and this score on the night. That put West Holmes up early. Then later on, it's Jacob Depperschmidt, picked off by Gavin Sheldon, who's going to return it all the way back for 6 points. The Minutemen would trail in this thing 20-7 midway through the second quarter. Then the big play started to pile up for the Lex offense. Just like we saw last week over at Arlen Field, Josh Aiello had 2 long touchdown grabs. There's one of them right there. Alex Green had a couple explosive plays. Depperschmidt threw for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. But coming up, this Shane Jones touchdown reception you're about to see would give the Knights a 6-point fourth quarter edge. Now enter the Minutemen closer, Cade Stover. We saw this last week, Effie. When he gets through the hole, this man can really run.
Absolutely. He ran away from the Tigers last week and looks like he's doing the same thing to West Holmes this week. He's certainly a difference maker in tight ball games and made a difference that night.
49-yard touchdown run there put Lex up 1. Knights were driving a field goal range, though. 32-yarder. It's wide left, and Lexington survives. They knock off West Holmes 34-33 on homecoming night, and waving their purple flag out there proudly in Lexington country. Mansfield Senior now looking to avoid their first 4-game losing streak since 2011. Community Stadium, not an easy place to do it. Hadn't beat the Arrows on the road since 2013. Could tonight be the night? Well, the Mansfield Senior defense certainly tried to make it that way. Angelo Gross off the edge for the sack. This Tigers defense was phenomenal early on in this game, as was their smash mouth clock control football style on offense. They ran it 60 times, guys, including this 31-yard Trayshawn Wyndham touchdown scamper. Later on in the game, it's Tavion Harris who would make it 12-0 in favor of the Tigers. They missed both extra points that would be key in this game late. Fast forward you now to the fourth quarter, where it's Amajian Robertson making it 19-0 in favor of the Brown and Orange. He had a big-time day, did he, for the Tigers, a $122 on the ground. It looked like they were going to cruise to a big victory, but all of a sudden, the big yards started to pile up for Mitch Heilman. 22-yard touchdown cost there to Cade McQuaid. It's just a 2-score game. This trimmed it down to a 1-score game. 14-yard hookup again to McQuaid. Now under 4 minutes remaining, Heilman is going to look and find Ross Garrison for the go-ahead score. It's 21-19. The Arrows are going to win this thing. Last chance for the Tigers, who barely threw it all night, but they do connect. Cam Todd to Angelo Gross, 5-yard game winner, 26-21. Absolutely wild affair at Community Stadium. The Tigers avoid a 4-game slide as they knock off the Arrows for the big-time victory on the road. So clearly, boys, the OCC got a lot more interesting last night with those. I would say there were upset wins just in terms of the seeding in the conference as of last night. Kurt, you were over at the Mansfield Tiger game. What just were your overall thoughts and impressions of the way that they looked, that they were dominant for pretty much the entire contest?
Yeah, I think that Mansfield Senior really established its identity last night. I mean, you know, when you think of senior high, you think a team that can score from anywhere on the field. This is a 4 or 5 yards at a time team. I mean, they put together a 98-yard drive. It took, 7.5, 8 minutes off the clock. This is a power run. They were playing 2 tight ends at a time and 2 running backs. This is a team that's a power run team. And then in the fourth quarter, or late in the fourth quarter, when they needed to throw it, Cam Todd, the quarterback, showed the ability to drop back into the shotgun, and he could throw it down the field. So it was a really impressive all-around performance offensively, I thought.
I would agree. And then Lexington getting it done over West Holmes. In your opinion, Effie, what was the bigger win, the more impressive win to you? Mansfield going on the road and beating Ashland, or Lexington back-to-back wins after they were left basically dead in the water a couple weeks ago?
Well, I mentioned last week that if any team had the skill and could pull it together and beat an Ashland or even a Worcester, it was Mansfield Senior. So even though that's an upset win, it was in my opinion that they could get it done. Now, to me, a bigger upset, if you will, is Lexington beating West Holmes. You know, Lexington for first few games of the season were, for lack of a better term, sleepwalking, because they just didn't look like they had the weapons. They didn't look like they had the offense. Their defense gave up a lot of points. They are now a team that has figured out what, we talked last week about. Sometimes it takes some time to figure out what type of team you're going to be, what your strengths are. They have figured it out. And one of the things I think they've figured out is let Stover win or lose games for you. Put the ball in the kid's hands however he gets it, and we're going to ride with him. And they've done a great job of that. But also, they've increased their big plays. And we saw a lot of some passes down the field. They're turning people over in this game, I believe so. And so with Lexington, that is a huge win, and that really just makes a jumble out of the OCC race.
The Generals are the only 4-0 team in the league play, and they still have the Tigers and Arrows coming up on their schedule. Give me some of your predictions, Kurt. What do you see happening as we get down to these final 3 weeks of the OCC? How's it all going to shake out in your mind?
Well, I mean, next week I think is a huge game. Senior High hosts Worcester at Arlen Field. Arlen Field's a tough place to play. Everyone knows that. And Senior High, I think if they continue to do the things that made them successful last evening, I mean, there's no reason they can't win that football game. So, I mean, I don't see the OCC champion having no losses this year.
Right. I agree, and you had said to me last week that you thought that Mansfield could still get back in the conference chase, and I agree. I actually think they're probably the most talented team in the OCC, just unfortunately they didn't have a couple of results go their way. I still kind of believe that, but with the 2 losses, I feel like the Tigers are out of it. Generals, though, do you feel like that is the team to beat? Do you think it's Ashland? What do you think, Effie? Who's going to win this thing?
No, it's wow. That's an interesting question because it's hard when, in my view, and I think I would have to say from the beginning, I've thought that Mansfield was the most talented team in the league. But now in their situation, they're not going to be able to win the league. So, Worcester is probably the safest bet, but Mansfield with, like we talked about last week, they could make a mess of this thing by beating Ashland and Worcester, and they certainly are capable of doing that. And the other interesting thing is Mansfield, even though they don't right now at this point have a chance to win the league, could still sneak in the back door of postseason. So they have a lot to play for, which gives them even more motivation to go out and get this win against Worcester.
Let's look at the playoff picture real quick. Mansfield's 10th in D3 Region 10. Lexington's right behind them in 11th. And then Worcester and Ashland both on the outside of the playoff picture in D2 Region 7. West Holmes way out in Region 9. Is there a possibility we get no Ohio Cardinal Conference teams in the playoffs?
Wow. That would be unthinkable. And I think that it says a lot, though, about the competition in the area and specifically in the league. I don't think that's anything that the league team should feel bad about. I think the fact that every night you have to come to play says a lot about your league. It would be a shame, though, I think, for us as football fans not to have a local team to get in, but it is a distinct possibility that could happen.
Kurt, who do you think has the best opportunity of any of these teams in the OCC to play themselves back into the playoff picture?
I think that you got to look at one of the D3 schools. The D2 schools, they're just not enough points available, D3 Senior High and D3, even Lex and D3. I mean, if they continue to win, and that Region 10 is not, certainly not taking any shots at it, but it is not as strong as it has been in the past. They could, backdoor themselves into an 8 seed or a 7 seed there, and then I wouldn't want to play Mansfield Senior in the playoffs. No. Not at all. I mean, that's a team that is dangerous. They can hurt you in a lot of different ways, and same with Lex. I mean, Lex has the best player in the area, and it's really not that close. And do you really want to go on a one-time deal with Cade Stover? That's a tough proposition.
And when you think about it, the fact is Mansfield has a quarterback that they're still breaking in.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's going to get better and better. He's only played 2 games. So we really don't know how explosive this offense can really be, but I think they're starting to see that now. And to me, that just adds more mystery to what they can be down the stretch of this season and into the postseason.